Okay, gonna try take two on this. So, we give people some time to jump on. Hopefully it's better this time. Okay, we're gonna try this again. Hopefully it'll be better this time. I don't know why I've been having trouble. My live videos freezing up on Sundays. I didn't have a lot of trouble for a long time. It's one of the reasons I'm thinking about doing something different, because it seems like about every other week it gets choppy or it freezes up. So kind of wait for people to jump on again and see how the quality is. And try this again. Anna says I was fine. So far so good. Yeah. Okay, so if I was fine, maybe it was on the other end. I don't know. I've been having trouble with this. Even when I go back and watch some of the ones where people tell me that I'm freezing up, I'm literally freezing up and having some trouble. So hopefully it's better this go round and smoother. It is a little bit frustrating that this keeps happening. Seems like every other week or so. A lot of people on right now. It's buffering bandwidth limitations. Yeah, maybe I just need to pick a different time, huh, Travis? Okay. Yeah. Who knows why it's doing what it's doing. But anyway, hopefully it's better this time. All right, so let's come back to tarot. Let's just jump in, try and make this a little bit self-contained. Number one, tarot is not from the devil. Didn't originate with the devil. Tarot actually was a game. It was a card game from the Renaissance period in Italy. Now, keep in mind that back then we did not have the ability to mass reproduce cards or a deck of cards in the sense that we do today. They had to be painted, hand painted. So tarot was a uppity, aristocratic card game, one of the original card games that was played, and the images were painted, and the images reflect, at least in the Rider-Waite cards, they reflect some of the original Renaissance type paintings and pictures. Now, there was a woman, and I forget her name. I didn't have time to look up the specifics, but just about any good book on tarot that talks about the history of tarot is going to tell you this. There was a woman who was playing with the cards, and there was a man who showed up and was looking at the images, and he began to get flashes of insight into what the images were and what the images meant. And he said that it all went back to ancient Egypt. And I think maybe he was an Egyptologist, or he had an interest in Egyptian art and philosophies. And so he was saying that the tarot cards went all the way back to ancient Egypt. Now, there is no scholarship that I can find. Now, there is some truth to this and not truth to this. So let's talk about the not truth of it. First of all, we know if they had to paint cards in the Renaissance time period, if you go all the way back to ancient Egypt, there is no evidence that they could manufacture cards or paint cards or even use cards in a divination type system. Now, there is something that I read, I haven't been able to verify it, that they did have a part of the temple that you would go into that would have various different images and paintings. And they would take like lots or sticks, and they would throw them on the ground, and then wherever the sticks were pointing, they would be pointing to the various images, and they would interpret those images. But there is no evidence that the tarot cards, tarot was a game. It did not go back to ancient Egypt. So, and it was common to use cards in fortune telling and divination and that kind of stuff. But where the modern tarot and the modern interest in tarot comes in, you have to go back to the turn of the last century. And there's two people, Arthur E. Waite is the primary figure, and Pamela Coleman Smith created the Rider-Waite, what's called the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. Now, the reason it's called the Rider-Waite Tarot deck, or some people are now calling it the Rider-Waite Smith deck, is because Rider was the publisher who published the deck. Waite, Arthur Waite, was the man who came up with the symbols and the imagery to paint onto the cards or to put onto the cards, and Pamela Coleman Smith was the artist who did it. Now, Pamela Coleman Smith didn't get anything from it. She died a pauper, and they were known as the Rider-Waite deck. But she painted every single image on the card. Now, Arthur E. Waite was a student of the Kabbalah. He has a book written on the Kabbalah. And he was a student of esoteric wisdom, and he was a mystic. So the reality is that Arthur E. Waite was seeking to know God through the mysteries, and he was seeking to unite himself to God as a mystic. So he certainly wasn't seeking to create something that was demonic or that was satanic. But why I like the Rider-Waite cards is because what Waite did was he specifically coded the cards with imagery to reflect Hermetic wisdom. Now, this is where it may go back to Egypt, because the Hermetic wisdom of the ancient Greeks was probably the ancient Egyptians elucidated in the cards back to Egyptian wisdom. So that's the first part of it. And the cards themselves, the Rider-Waite cards, Rider-Waite Smith cards, contain specific images and tell a specific story. Now, let's talk about the difference between tarot cards and oracle deck cards. So in order for it to be a tarot deck, it has to have 5 suits. You have 5 suits. You have the wands card deck, clubs. You have cups, or in our modern deck, that reflects the hearts. You have swords, which in the modern deck is spades. And you have pentacles or coins, which in the modern deck is diamonds. So but for tarot, you have cups, swords, wands, pentacles. That's your 4 suits. Then your 5th suit is a trump suit. It's called the trump suit of 22 cards that is known as the major arcana. Now, the word arcana means secrets. I'm just giving you the structure of the deck. So you've got 22 trump cards, or major arcana cards, or is what is considered from an esoteric spiritual perspective the major secret. Then you have 4 suits of minor arcana, or the minor secret, which are again wands, cups, swords, pentacles. That's important. So then you've got 10 pip cards, which is ace through 10. You have the court cards, which consisted of a page, a knight, a queen, and a king. So when you add it all up, we have the 4 suits of 14, and you have the trump suit of 22. You have the minor arcana, major arcana. You have 78 cards. So for it to be a tarot deck, it has to have that structure to it. If it doesn't have that structure to it, it is not a tarot deck. It can be an oracle deck. An oracle deck can be anything that you want it, that the author itself wants it to be. So it can be 10 cards, it can be 100 cards, it can be 78 cards, it can be whatever. But for it to be a tarot, it has to have that specific structure to it. Now, I will say this also, just because it has that structure does not mean that it's reflecting the same message or even the same language, because it's a pictorial language or a spiritual path. Other tarot decks are reflecting the vision and the symbolic language of the person who created the deck. So there's not this same universal consistency that connects to the ancient Hermetic wisdom in these oracle decks or these other tarot decks. They reflect the language and the symbolic ideas of the person creating the deck. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. Now, what's interesting about the structure of the deck too is the reason you had 4 suits was because it had some alchemy in it. Derek Day and I talked about alchemy on Friday night. If you haven't had a chance to catch that, I would highly recommend catching that video. It was so good, man, especially there towards the end. Derek just got on fire. It was really, really good. One alchemy was the 4 elements of earth, wind, air, and fire. No, wind and air are the same thing. Earth, wind, water, and fire. And then you had a 5th element that was called the quintessence, the 5th element, which was consciousness or aether or God or life power or the divine light in or the hypostasis. Again, go back and catch the video that we did on alchemy and it'll make some sense. So the tarot deck itself is based on the 4 elements in the quintessence. So the wands represent the element of fire, and the wands speak specifically to the life power or the inspiration, the being inspirited. So the entire wand suit is referring to that aspect of reality, the element of fire. It also relates to, by the way, guys, it relates to the 4-letter name of God, Yod He Vav He. Now remember, this comes from Western Christianity, so you may not want anything to do with Yahweh or Jehovah or Jesus or whatever, but I'm just telling you, this is how the system was put together. And so you had masculine, feminine traits in the Yod He Vav He. But let's get back to the elements. I don't want to get too confusing. So fire, cups represents water. It represents the feminine energy. So wands represents the masculine energy of the Yod. Cups represents the receptive energy of He. And it speaks to your emotions. It speaks to your emotional life. So everything in the cups with. Then you have swords, which is the air, because the sword cuts through the air. It also speaks to our thoughts, and it represents the Vav in the Yod He Vav He, and it's also a masculine energy. And then you have the last aspect, which is the pentacle or the coin, and it speaks to the earth, and the earth is always a feminine energy, right? So you have the two masculine, 2 feminine energies in the 4 suits. You the Yod He Vav He and the 4 elements. That's why there's 4 suits. So pentacles represents earth. It represents the material aspect of life. So everything in the pentacle suit has something to do with the material aspect of life. So if wands are showing up, so if you do a reading and wands are showing up, it's speaking to the life power and the inspiration, the inspiriting of life, the fire. If the cups show up, it's speaking to the emotional aspect of life. If the swords show up, it's speaking to the intellect. Show up, it's speaking to the material aspect, not just money, but all the world of action, because it also relates to the 4 worlds of the Kabbalistic system. So if you know Kabbalah, the pentacles relates to Asiya, the world of action. So you have emanation, the world of emanation, wands. You have the world of anyway, I don't want to get into it because I don't want to confuse everybody. But anyway, if you want to study, you can look at the 4 worlds of Kabbalah. You can also line it up. So all these patterns are interwoven into the tarot system. And then, so you have the 4 elements, then you have the 5th element, which is the 22 cards of the trump suit or of the major arcana. And the reason there's 22 cards is because there are 22 Hebrew letters. This whole thing is set up on a Kabbalistic system. There were 22 Hebrew letters that, according to an ancient book called the Sefer Yetzirah, was what God used to create the world. They're the primary energies. So in the 22 cards of the major arcana, you're looking at the major energies, the major archetypes that affect or impact life. So what you have in the 78 cards of the tarot is you have a symbolic language and a symbolic system to talk about every aspect of human way of permutating or combining. So if I were to throw down some cards, I would get some wands and some cups, maybe a major arcana card, and maybe I would get a sword. And so it would look at how these energies are identified and interacting within the context of whatever the question was or whatever the reading was about. So you have an infinite number of combinations of human consciousness. It's all about human consciousness. So the major arcana is speaks to our spiritual growth and our spiritual development in character development of elements of our experience, our emotions, our subconscious, our thoughts, our intellectual systems, the conflict that comes, our ideas, and then our material existence in the world of action. So all of this is in this system. And then, as you know, they say a picture paints 1,000 words, and pictures also speak to the subconscious. So the purpose of, so you can use the tarot deck as a system for spiritual development, for personal development, for personal growth, and also as a tool to educate your subconscious and also to bring to the surface that which was in you and operating around you that you were not conscious of before. So a good tarot reading is not divination. It's not trying to discern the mind of God. And it is not trying to foretell your future in the terms of make you conscious. It's an illumination to make you conscious of energies and the way these combination of energies are interacting with you in your consciousness in order to give you insight into the way things are headed. So in other words, if you get a reading, then what the cards are telling you is these are the energies that are at work in your life. And you can even have cards that say this is going to be the outcome if you stay consistent to these energies. So you can walk out of that and say, no, I'm going to change those energies, and that's by change the outcomes. Or if it's a really good outcome and it's the outcome I want, then I can say, okay, I'm just going to keep doing more of what I've been doing. So that's the purpose of it. But you can use it as a tool. A little bit. I've got a series on, I've got a teaching set on the tarot that goes into this more in depth. And then I've got a second one that I'm working on that I need to make available. I need to get it up and available. But I'm just going to use the first two, what we call major arcana cards. So the first one, it's hard with the, let me see if I can get it with blocking the light there. This one is the Fool. And notice at the top you see a 0. That's the first one. And this is the second one. It's the Magician. So he's got the infinity symbol at the top of his head. You can see the Roman numeral number 1 there. And then he's holding a wand up. And then on his table, it might be hard to tell, is a cup, a wand, a cards, right? Is 0. So the Fool card is not a number. The Fool card is a 0. So even though it's the first card in the set, it does not belong to the set. I'll explain that in a minute. The first card, the very, very first card, is Here, let me turn this off, see if this helps. The very first card, I'm trying to get the glare off of it, is the Magician or the Mage. So here's the other interesting thing about the tarot. Just with the major arcana, you separate the Fool out. The Fool does not belong to it because the Fool represents the point of consciousness, the original point of consciousness. So the Fool can take a journey through all the different suits, a journey through the cup, swords, and learn about the intellectual life. But the main point is that the Fool is zero, meaning he's starting with nothing. He's no thing. That's why he's the Fool. He has nothing. He has no wisdom, no experience. He himself represents the divine spark. If you look at the card, he's getting ready to jump off of a cliff, and he's looking up, and he's holding a rose, and he's just got, he's just about ready to take that next step and not realize that he's jumping off the cliff, right? But he's also at the point of zero. Now, don't think about zero as nothing. Zero is the place of perfect balance. Jan's saying, tilt the card. I'm trying tilting it. Does that help? Maybe that helps. Thanks, Jan. But zero doesn't mean nothing. Zero just means perfect balance, right? So like if you have -2 plus +2, you come to a balance. First card that you see there, see, I'm gonna try and tilt it. The first card that you see there, maybe that's good, I don't know. The first card that you see there is the Magician. Now, the yellow background symbolizes the light power, or the power of God, or the verse that would connect to it is the Apostle Paul saying, in him we live and move and have our being. It represents the all. It represents the divine energy, the creative energy, the root of all existence. That's what that represents. And he's got a wand up. So the idea of having his wand up is he's drawing that power down, and then he's pointing down to the earth. So he's becoming the channel through which divine power can flow and operate. And then on his desk, he has the 4 suits. So literally what the Magician is showing you is that as you begin life, you realize that you are the magician of your own life, and your tools are your emotions, your passions, your thoughts, and your actions. And so the idea for the Magician is to work with life. So it's pointing to the tarot, but it's also pointing to life. It's pointing to you and your consciousness. It's letting you know that you are the magician. You're the one that gets to work magic. You're the one that gets to work alchemy by working change, using your inspirations, your emotions, your subconscious, your thoughts, and your actions. And so it keeps progressing. I want to see if I can find another card in here to show you how these things build on each other and develop a language. Give me 1 second. Okay, there's a card called the Lover's card, but I can't find it. But the Lover's card, if you look at the Lover's card, it's got Adam and Eve. It's got the male and the female. They're both naked. The male is looking at the female, and the female is looking up at an angel, an ascended being. So in the Lover's card, it's not just about romance. It's about the interaction between the conscious mind being the male, the subconscious mind being the female, and the or the angelic, or that which is metaphysical. And what that card is showing you is that the conscious mind and subconscious mind, the conflict needs to be resolved. They need to be in love with each other. And the conscious mind needs to gaze into the pool of the subconscious mind. And it's only through gazing into the pool of your own subconscious mind that you can eventually reach access to the superconscious mind, or what, again, to use scripture, what the Apostle Paul calls in 1 Corinthians 2, the mind of the Spirit, the mind of God, all that. sort of stuff. So she's looking up at the angel. So the Lover's card is the picture of a harmonious consciousness, not just a harmonious relationship. Are you tracking with me? Now I want to show you the Devil card, because this is one that throws people off, right? So the Devil card, trying to do Jan's thing and tilt it just right. There we go, maybe. The Devil's card, you see the two lovers, and you see the Devil holding his hands in a similar position as the Magician, only, so he's pointing up and down, only yellow light or the life power, he's backlit with darkness or with the ignorance that comes with it. You notice that he's sitting on a stool or a block, and the two lovers are chained to the block. But notice it's not tied around their necks. All they have to do is lift it off their necks. So my point is, this is the inverse of the Lover's card. This relates perfectly to the Lover's card. If you would look at the Lover's card, you would see the two looking at each other without any bondage to anything, in nature, no block, and looking up at a radiant angel. Here, they're looking up at the Devil in darkness. They're chained in bondage to this. And he's using the Magician arm posture, and above you had in the Magician, you also is an alchemical symbol of the four elements, with the fifth point of the star representing the quintessence or the spirit or the metaphysical or the spiritual life. So right side up pentacle means spirit ruling over the earth, and upside down pentacle means the elements ruling over spirit. So he's got the upside down pentagram, which basically, so this card is not telling you, you know, the devil's going to get you. This card is telling you that your consciousness is in bondage to illusion and ignorance. The block represents the materialism. And it's kind of the opposite of the Magician card and kind of the opposite of the Lover's card. It's the opposite experience of that. But without seeing the visual imagery and comparing them and seeing how they work together, it's hard to get the full interpretation out of that card. Now, the other thing that's cool about this, and just give you one more thing, and then maybe I'll try and take some questions or something, but you got the full card, which is 0. That leaves you with 21 cards, which then is really important in seven being a number of full cycle from start to finish. So in the first 7, minus the 0, take the 0 out as the full. You lay out the first 7, you got the first half of life. That takes you from the beginning of life all the way through to the Chariot. This is a person who grows up, interacts with nature, the Empress, interacts with society, the Emperor, interacts with religion, the Pope, the Hierophant as it's known, is exposed to all these various different energies until he gets to the Chariot. That's kind of like the full-grown person ready to go out and ride into life. That's one turning inward, and the last 7 takes you to the fully actualized, authentic person, which is the World card. This is the last one in the major arcana. So it looks like a woman, but actually Waite wanted it to be an androgynous figure, both male and female. So it represents the balance of polarities. She's naked, meaning she doesn't have any pretenses. She doesn't have any, or he or she doesn't have any pretenses, doesn't have any false self. This is the fully authentic self doing a dance in the world, with the serpent being the Kundalini power or the life power draping her. And so this is the idea of the fully actualized self. So the journey through the major arcana, the major secret, is the fool's journey from beginning the great work of the magician until you get to the fully actualized, authentic self, finding its place perfectly centered in the life that you were meant to live. Yeah, Jan says non-binary. It's absolutely how Waite intended that card to be understood. Yeah, but then the other thing is you can lay them across 3 sets of 7, and instead of going across this way, you can go down this way. So if you can imagine, I'm sorry I can't do the layout, but I'm laying out 1 row of 7, 2nd row of 7, 3rd row of 7. So the Fool can make his journey this way, and it talks about the process of life and self-actualization. Or you can go down this way and read these cards this way, this way, this way, all the way to 7, and you get a full revelation of spiritual unfoldment as well, which is a whole different teaching in and of itself. So that kind of gives you an idea about the tarot and how it works, how the cards relate to each other, how you can use it as a spiritual system. So you can take the card, let's say you can take an energy that you want. So let's just say you want to be that self-actualized person in the world. So you can take the world card and you can just kind of take some time of meditation and you can focus on it. And then you can just notice, what are you feeling? What are you projecting onto the card? What are you seeing? What's coming up in you? And you can internalize the image by sort of memorizing the image and closing your eyes and having it inside you. The more you can internalize the image, the more it's going to activate things in your subconscious. It creates a stronger link between your psychic and intuitive capacities and the cards themselves. It's one of the reasons I love the Rider-Waite deck. I mean, the art is not interesting at all. It's not exciting, but the language that is embedded in the cards and the way they relate to each other and the truths that it brings up is just absolutely amazing. It's just amazing. So it's a different map. It's a different tool that you can use for your own spiritual growth and your own progress. So I don't know. Anybody have any questions? It's 11 o'clock, so I usually only go about an hour, but I kind of rushed through that second part. What do you guys think? If I get any, let me back. Jan is liking it. Thank you, Jan. Yeah, the study, Jeanette says the study of tarot is quite intricate. Jan, I'll go back and read your comments because they look really interesting. Bishop, my friend Bishop Jamal says, my favorite is the Divine Energy Oracle deck. Simple but impactful messages. It always resonates powerfully in readings for myself and others. You kind of get straight to the point. Cool. Divine Energy Oracle deck. I'm going to have to check that one out. All right. Let's see if there's any other comments that have come up. Yeah. So Rob. It's sort of a not a great syllabus, but a syllabus that goes with it. It's just figuring out. I'm working with a web designer. She's waiting on me to get something to her. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to do that this week. That's one of the reasons I'm bringing it up now. And then I'm working on a second one where I'll go through every single one of the major arcana cards. That one I'm still producing. But the other one I'm hoping to have up by the end of the week, and I'll let you guys know here on Facebook that you can get it. I do this with the Tower and the Devil, and I overcome myself with this cards, but still I got a problem with the Hierophant. I do too, Michelle. I have a problem with the Hierophant. The Devil card, if you notice he's sitting on a block, that block is actually the tower that gets struck in the Tower card. So when you begin to understand all the symbolisms of it, you begin to see how it all flows together. And after enough study time, you can kind of begin to become fluent in the language. One of the reasons I don't do readings with tarot cards, because I look at it this way, and I don't mean this to be offensive. There is nothing wrong with this. This is a personal choice on my part, so please don't anybody get triggered by this. But if you think about the tarot system as a foreign language that you have to learn, as a pictorial language, symbolic language, then if someone does a reading for you, the question becomes, who's navigating you? Someone who's fluent in the language, or someone that needs to look in the book to find the translation? So if I'm in, let's just say, Mexico, and I don't speak Spanish very well, and I want to ask for the bathroom, and I don't know, it's baños, I think it is. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But if I don't know that, I'm in my book and I'm looking at bathroom, and then I'm saying baños. And that's how we all start, right? With reading cards. That's how we all start. I didn't have to do that before I started doing any kind of readings. And I'm still working on that. So I don't do readings yet for people. Let's see. So definitely some interest in the series. That's good to know. Thanks, guys. All right. I will come back and look at the comments. Thanks for letting me talk about a subject that I enjoy. I hope it wasn't too much information. I hope it gave you some idea of what the tarot system is, maybe piqued your interest a little bit, and definitely can provide you with a different tool. So, all right, guys, I will talk to you later. I'm out. Have a great day. Be blessed.